Hello and welcome to Lutherans Alive. This is the program that seeks to tell the stories of Lutheran Christians and our ministries here in Southwestern Pennsylvania. We do so joyfully, believing that God Himself is at work in us. We welcome you to the program today. I'm Pastor Tony Schneck, your host, and with me today is Pastor Don Short. Pastor Short serves at Grace at Calvary Lutheran Church in Butler, right in the heart of downtown Butler,
Yes.
Pennsylvania?
1 block from the county courthouse.
Excellent.
Yes.
Well, welcome to the program, Don.
Thank you.
We're glad to have you. And how long have you been at Grace at Calvary now?
A bit over a year. I started in July of 2010, so it's been about a year and 4 months or so.
And tell us, if you would, please, a little about your journey to that point now. You came to us from outside our Synod.
Correct.
And as a second career person?
Right. This is my first call. I graduated from Luther Seminary in May of 2010. And prior to that, I was an optician in the Seattle area for about 20 years. So people have joked with me that I'm bringing vision of a different kind. But yeah, it was one of those things where I didn't really want to be a pastor, but God wouldn't shut up. So I finally said, okay, I'll listen. And my pastor, Paul Meeker of Our Savior's Lutheran in Bremerton, Washington, was my pastor at the time, and he recommended that I attend the Region 1 discernment retreat where, people that were discerning a call to ministry could define what shape that call might take and whether that would be ordained ministry, diaconal ministry, associate ministry, or any other rostered leader position, or something not rostered. And the more I attended that retreat, the longer that went on, the more it just felt like I was being called into pastoral ministry. So then my wife and I went on a cross-country ELCA seminary tour, visited Philadelphia and St. Paul, and online Berkeley and Southern Seminary, and decided on Lutheran St. Paul. And I did my seminary education there, and then was called to Grace at Calvary in Butler.
You certainly know, and many of our viewers may also be aware, that there are many biblical examples of those who sort of resisted the call in one way or another, but God gets His way. And
yes, indeed. Yeah. It's funny you should bring that up, because at the discernment retreat we studied the book of Jonah. And then once again in Hebrew class at Luther Seminary, we studied the book of Jonah. So it's like, God's calling me Jonah in a number of ways throughout this whole process. It's like, okay, I'm off the boat to Tarshish. I'm back on the ground and cleaned off the saliva of the whale, and I'm okay.
I've taken a lot of comfort from the Jonah story myself over the years, figuring if God can get Jonah where Jonah's supposed to be, He could certainly put me where I'm supposed to be. So.
Right.
There's a lot of comfort in that.
Exactly.
Well, we're glad to have you here in Southwestern Pennsylvania, and certainly at a place like Grace at Calvary, some unique things going on there. And you were going to share a little bit today about specifically Grace at Calvary's ministry to the poor in Butler. Right.
Butler has about a 22% poverty rate according to the most recent, the 2010 census. And as a result, we took a hard look at what could be and what should be our response as members of the Butler community, and a number of things have emerged. We have a group of very dedicated volunteers that work at the Covenant Food Cupboard, which is a food bank that's hosted in Covenant Presbyterian. And they have volunteers from a number of churches that work in that food cupboard. So we have a group that works there. We also have every night somewhere in Butler is a community meal. And on Monday nights it's at First English Lutheran in downtown Butler. And on the first Monday of each month, Grace at Calvary prepares and serves the community meal at First English. So those are the two primary responses to food needs in Butler that we are able to provide. We also have a voucher program where people from our congregation contribute to a fund, and that fund is used to buy food vouchers through a local grocery store. And then we can distribute those for mostly for perishables, because the food banks will supply non-perishables and do a wonderful job with that, but people that are just working just enough for to be not eligible for food, like the government food WIC program, they're working enough for that they don't qualify for the government assistance, but they're not working enough to keep their monthly bills paid. Food is often one bill that they look to reduce the costs on, and so we offer vouchers, and people can come by once a month to get a voucher to provide perishables for their family. Those are probably the three primary food programs that we offer. And then once a year, right after Christmas, we have a food drive that takes up the month of January, and we call it the Saints versus Angels food drive. We divide our congregation into half. Half of the congregation is the saints, half the congregation is the angels, and we compete against each other to see who can bring in the most non-perishables to restock the covenant food cupboard after their Christmas depletion. So it's a fun way to get. Last year we got a half ton of food, so it's a fun way to really make an impact and really stock up covenant food cupboard, so that they're able to continue serving the needs of the poor people in Butler.
Wonderful. It sounds like a good and friendly competition with...
We call it friendly.
Okay. Well, good. Does the winner get a prize?
Bragging rights, yes. I think last year we gave them bookmarks. Okay. So not a big deal.
Certainly, just the satisfaction of knowing that one has served neighbors in need is enough.
That's right. We work pretty hard on the commandment of Christ to love your neighbor as you love yourself. So loving our neighbors with, beating each other up with cans of tomatoes, that's fine. We'll take that. It's a lot of fun.
Good. And your congregation is located, as you said, right in the heart of downtown Butler. So there are many opportunities there, being in a very busy area where people are either living there or passing through there, that you have the opportunity to reach out to a lot of people.
Right. I don't know how familiar you are with the term Section 8 housing. It's housing for people who are low income. We have across the street from our building is a Section 8 apartment building. There's another one next to the courthouse, which is a block from us. And then about 2 blocks away is another high-rise apartment of low-income housing. So we have quite a few working poor in our neighborhood. And so along with the food response, we've also opened a clothing bank called Grace's Closet, and we have a number of volunteers. The outpouring of the Southwestern Pennsylvania Synod, by the way, has been absolutely phenomenal. At the last Synod Assembly, I had the opportunity to talk about the clothing bank in front of the whole Synod Assembly, and that was fun, but it also gave other people in the Synod an opportunity to gather food and clothing for us as well. And so we have clothing from all over the Synod in our clothing bank. As a matter of fact, we got another delivery from a congregation in Greensburg this morning. Bishop Cussero's put pants in our clothing bank, and we have, just throughout the Synod, we're getting contributions from all over. It's really quite wonderful.
It is one of the benefits of being connected with others around our area, and we'd love to hear some more about the clothing ministry and other outreaches there in the heart of Butler. But we're going to take a short break, and we'll be back right after this here on Lutherans Alive. Welcome back to Lutherans Alive. We continue our conversation with Pastor Don Short. Don is the pastor of one of our active congregations there in Butler, Grace at Calvary. And before the break, we were talking a little bit about, a few outreach ministries, food ministries, but also clothing ministries that help folks in need of those important items.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, Grace's Closet has taken off like a rocket. We started it in August, and the response from not only the churches in the Southwestern Pennsylvania Synod donating clothing has been wonderful, but we've had days when we've had up to 50 people visit that clothing bank, and it's been a little overwhelming sometimes, because we usually have about a volunteer staff of 3 working the clothing bank, and they can get kind of stressed when there's 50 people wanting to get in. But when you are volunteering at the clothing bank and a young family comes in, a mom, a dad, and a couple of young kids, and to watch the excitement of the kids, this happened in August when we first opened. Kids are starting to get ready for school, and a lot of the parents were kind of feeling bad because they couldn't go to the local stores and outfit their kids for school. But they wanted to be able to supply new school clothes for their kids. So to be able to watch those families come into our clothing bank and watch the excitement of the kids as they were able to get new outfits for school, that made it all worthwhile right there. And that seems to be kind of our target market is families with young children. We kind of thought it would be working people, but we've had a few working people, but mostly we're really targeting young families. We've had 1 or 2 people needing professional clothing, but most of the time it's kids needing school clothes. We've gone through all kinds of T-shirts and jeans and shorts and shoes, you name it. If a kid needs it, it's been in and done and gone out. So a lot of people in downtown Butler are wearing Grace Closet clothes.
That's great. I mean, in one sense, it can make one sad to know that there's so many people that are in this situation of need. But on the other hand, what a joy,
right,
to be able to provide needed items like that, right, and make a difference.
Right. And Butler needs industry. It's an industrial town where we've lost Pullman Standard that used to build train cars. They're gone. We've lost the glass factories. They're gone. The only major industry is a steel mill, AK Steel. That's the only one. And that employs a whole lot of people, but, because that's the only industry available, the people that used to work in the other places are working poor now because they haven't been able to get industry-related jobs. They're working at Walmart, Kmart, not living wage type jobs, and there is not industry moving into Butler, so we have to form some kind of response to the poverty, and those are the ways that we've done that. Another thing that's happened in Butler that's just been an absolute eye-opening experience for me is the level of cancer. My goodness. There's a new cancer center out on Technology Drive not far from town, and it's busy all the time because people don't have good health care, so they don't take care of themselves, so they get illnesses, and one of the biggest ones is cancer. So we have a team in our church that walks for Relay for Life annually, and they're very heavily involved. And one of the things that's done is with our association with Relay for Life. Relay for Life is sponsoring this year's Light Up Night in downtown Butler, where they're going to light a Christmas tree in Diamond Park, which happens to be right next to our church. So we thought, well, it's Relay for Life. We've got a Relay for Life team. Let's work together. So we got in touch with the organizers for the Light Up Night and said, you're going to have this tree lighting ceremony in downtown Butler. How about if we open up our church? We've got 10 restrooms. You can have them all. And they said, sure. could we also put in a ballroom dancer? Sure, there's a lady that wants to teach ballroom dancing as one of the activities for Light Up Night. Okay, so she's going to be in our social hall. And then I said, well, you know, people that have lost a loved one to cancer, facing their first holiday season without somebody, they might need a place to pause and reflect and remember somebody. And so we're going to have our sanctuary open for prayer and reflection. And we've got a youth center that has a stage in it, so we're going to have some performing artists down in our youth center. So the whole church is going to be used in a non-worship function to support people that are dealing with cancer in downtown Butler as well.
So not only does your congregation reach out to those in the community, but you're practicing a hospitality where the community can actually come and be in your building, around your building, and join in a community event such as a light-up night,
right,
close to Christmas time.
Right.
Wonderful. Practicing good hospitality.
Right.
Right there in downtown. Great. Well, hope that goes well, and maybe that'll even become an annual tradition.
I hope so.
Yeah. Great. Wonderful. Wonderful. Other things that Grace at Calvary, anything else you want to say about Grace at Calvary's outreach to the community, whether it be through the food or clothing or hospitality ministry, or how's it going in general?
Well, another thing that comes to mind is we have every year for New Year's Eve, we have downtown Butler has an event called Ring in the Arts. And it just so happens that the mayor of Butler is in a singing group that comes to our church. She's a Catholic, but you know, she doesn't mind coming into the Lutheran church. But because of our willingness to host, be a host site for Ring in the Arts, she and I have gotten to know each other, and she considers me the downtown pastor. So it was about a month or so, it was about almost 2 months ago, Butler suffered a tragedy where the downtown city manager was killed in an automobile accident. And I'd never met the woman, but Mayor Stock called on me to do the memorial service because we have a close association, which I thought was rather touching because she didn't even call on her own pastor. She called on me to do that memorial service. So I think our outreach is having an effect in making our community presence more visible in downtown Butler than a lot of congregations might be.
Wonderful. Good. And we'd like to hear much more about Grace at Calvary and your outreach to the city there in Butler. And we're going to take a short break here on Lutherans Alive. More with Pastor Don Short right after this. Welcome back to Lutherans Alive. We continue to talk with Pastor Don Short from Grace at Calvary Lutheran Church in Butler, Pennsylvania. And it's my understanding now that through your involvement with Relay for Life and raising money for cancer awareness and research, that Grace at Calvary has come to have its own superhero. Can
That's
you say?
correct.
Which is rather unique. You want to say something about this super person?
Well, yeah, I think Grace at Calvary is the only congregation I've ever been associated with that has its own superhero. And this sort of evolved because we have a gentleman in our congregation that walks annually for Relay for Life. And each year he does about 40 miles. Some years a tiny bit less, some years a little bit more, but he averages 40 miles a year. And the last 2 years, he's carried flags on, he gets a dowel and some cloth, and he allows people to put names of loved ones that they want to remember who have died from cancer You know, if you make a small donation, how he raises money for Relay for Life is to allow people to make a small donation and then put the name of a loved one on his flag. Well, carrying a flag for 40 miles has gotten to become cumbersome. So he came up with the idea of using a cape. Well, so using a cape sort of evolved into being, you know, a superhero. So he became the Caped Cancer Crusader. And he has a pretty wild outfit. He has a mask that says American Cancer Society on it. He has a cape. It's a pink cape, by the way, and he has a T-shirt that says "Real Men Wear Pink." So if you see this man in downtown Butler in a wild outfit with a pink cape, that's our superhero, yes. Jim.
And there's no need to be afraid of him.
That's right. He's a friendly superhero.
Right. Okay. Very good. And indeed, and in many ways, certainly a real hero in what he's doing. And real heroes are those who really try to make a difference in the lives of others. And it sounds like you have quite a few people involved in many different things at Grace at Calvary, whether it be the food ministry, the clothing ministry, the outreach to the community, and cancer awareness and raising money for cancer research. All of those things take people to make those things happen.
Right.
And it's wonderful that you have those folks at Grace at Calvary. A lively place, reaching out to others, and also certainly being a Lutheran church, a worshiping community. Can you say a word or two about the worship life at Grace at Calvary?
Well, worship life at Grace at Calvary follows the liturgical tradition of the Lutheran church that has been passed down generation to generation. However, we don't follow the liturgy as it's printed in the book. We use what we call as contextual worship, where a lot of our music is familiar contemporary Christian songs. Some of it comes from camp settings. Some of it comes from the radio. Some of it is out of the Cranberry book, but not much. We have a group called Acclamation of Grace that provides most of the music for our worship. We also do have a bell choir, but most of the music is done by Acclamation of Grace. And that's a group of about 4 or 5 guitarists, and they keep worship pretty lively. And I think we like it that way. I think we like a lively worship setting. We do a Kyrie, we do a Gloria, hymn of praise. We do, the standard parts of the liturgy, but we do them in a non-traditional way. And I think that's refreshing.
So the organ doesn't get as much use.
We rarely use the organ.
Yeah.
We did use it once this year, which was the first time in worship that we'd used the organ since I accepted my call in July of 2010. Every year we have what's called Golden Ager Sunday, where we celebrate the members of our congregation that have achieved the age of 80 or more. And so for Golden Ager Sunday, we had what we call Turn Back the Clock Sunday, and we did traditional setting 2 out of the Green Book with organ, and we decided that was just enough. We don't need to do that too much more. So we went back to we call it contextual worship because it fits our context, so we keep it lively and fresh.
Sure. There's certainly many ways to give praise, and we certainly have our Lutheran tradition of the liturgy and quote-unquote church music, but also to be able to pull in many different styles, whether it be from camp, songs that we use around the campfire, or contemporary Christian music that we hear on contemporary Christian radio. Mm-hmm. These are all wonderful things to be using. What's been said about that? Why should the devil have all the good music?
Right.
Right? So that's wonderful, and it seems to serve your congregation very well.
One of the great parts about it is a lot of the songs are easy to learn, so even the newest members or visitors can pick up on what we're doing very quickly, and they don't have to fumble around with a book. It's on the screen. Works well.
Mm-hmm. Good. And it sounds like you have a number of folks involved in that area of ministry too, in music ministry.
Yes. Quite a few.
Good. Good deal. How's it been for you personally at Grace at Calvary? How has this been an important part of your own faith journey? How have you yourself been enriched and strengthened in your relationship with God and with the church?
Well, one of the things that I discovered for me personally is I need to spend a lot of time in prayer. So one of the nice things about Grace at Calvary is they're very willing to accommodate whatever I need. So they took an empty Sunday school classroom and turned it into a prayer chapel just so I can have a quiet place to go and pray. Now, we do use it for small services. For instance, we used it last Christmas morning for a service of lessons and carols because we didn't have very many people come to worship because it was Christmas Day. But it's really nice to have a nice quiet place to go and pray and meditate, and I think that's one of the great gifts of being called to Grace at Calvary.
Well, thanks so much. It seems like you're a good match for the congregation and they for you, and we wish you nothing but God's blessings, God's richest blessings on your outreach to that community and your worship life there.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here today, Don.
You bet. Thank you.
Thanks. And thank you for being with us here today on Lutherans Alive. We know that whether you are in Butler or wherever you happen to be, in your community, near your community, there's a Lutheran congregation that would be very pleased to welcome you. Won't you come worship with us? And won't you come see us next time on Lutherans Alive?